If you have ever watched one of my engineering YouTube tutorials or followed my online content, you probably know me as that confident tech educator who explains complex DevOps principles with crystal clear explanations that make even senior developers nod in understanding. And my videos regularly get millions of views, and my comment sections fill with messages calling me naturally talented, exceptionally skilled in the field, and yes, occasionally even that uncomfortable word, genius. And a lot of people often highlight how articulate and understandable my explanations are in these complex tech concepts, especially given that English is not my native language. But here's the plot twist that most people will not expect. This seemingly effortless expertise, this apparent natural gift for both technology and language, this emerged from what might be some of the most spectacular failures that you could possibly imagine. Failures so basic, so elementary that they should have probably disqualified me from this career path. I will be super honest with you and show you what happened long before the viral videos and the global recognition. Back when I couldn't even get two simple words to display on a computer screen. This is my failure story. I was sitting in a large examination hall with dozens of other students, staring at what should have been the simplest English test imaginable. There was one question that read, "He blank to school every day," with 4 options: go, goes, going, gone. That was a simple English test. Basic stuff that most elementary school students could handle. Now, back then, English was not a popular language in Georgia, my country, where I was taking this exam. I had studied a bit at school and a little bit from books, and I was excited about this opportunity for US exchange program that I was applying for. This was a huge deal for me, but as I looked at the questions, I got super anxious. Some people around me were calmly filling out the answers while I sat there completely lost. And there was a more advanced test coming up if you made this round. I failed that basic test because I just didn't know English well enough, even to this basic level. The competition for this program was held once a year. I could participate in 1 year again. But after failing that simple English test, any reasonable person would have thought, maybe I don't have language skills. Plus, there's no way I can learn English in just 1 year to pass not only this basic test, but also the advanced test that comes after. Especially since I didn't have a teacher or even internet access. I had to learn completely by myself from books and a physical dictionary, which made this challenge seem nearly impossible. Yet today, I teach advanced technical concepts to international audiences in English. The same person who once couldn't choose between go and goes now explains complex architectural patterns that senior developers implement in their projects. How does something like this happen? My own journey follows a pattern of failing at exactly what I would later become good at. So after that English test failure, I didn't give up. I spent the entire next year learning English by myself from those books. So when the program came around, I finally passed that first screening. Only to completely bomb. The advanced test was TOEFL, and there was a section where we would hear a conversation in native English and needed to answer questions based on our understanding of that conversation. My knowledge was from reading books. I had never heard a native English conversation, so I couldn't understand a single word. It literally sounded like Chinese to me. So I went back to the library and borrowed some audio cassettes along the books to train my hearing. The following year, I passed the advanced test and the following rounds. And eventually, a year after, I won the competition and was able to study in US college in English. And when I came back to Georgia, I became an English and TOEFL program teacher. with a very successful track record. But that's a whole other story. Now, my struggles with things I'd later excel at did not stop there. Fast forward a few years, during my marketing studies in Austria, we had this one slightly IT-related subject. The final exam was just writing the simplest SQL queries imaginable. It was literally select star from a table to retrieve all data from a table. That's it. I failed. And then I failed the retake because I convinced myself IT is nothing for me, I'm not even remotely interested in this thing, and I don't even want to try. And I was the only student who failed both the exam and the retake. And that finally scared me enough to actually try, because failing third time would mean repeating the entire year. So I buckled down, started studying, and suddenly realized how embarrassingly simple these select statements were that I failed at. I passed the third attempt very easily and moved on, never even imagining that technology would play such a significant role in my future. 2 years later, it miraculously happened that I decided to get into IT. My friends from college who knew about my IT field retake found this hilarious, and so did I. So when I eventually switched to studying IT at a technical university in Vienna, I found myself in a lab staring at a computer screen, trying to complete what should have been the simplest Java programming exercise imaginable. Write a program that displays "Hello World" on the screen. That was the task. 3 hours later, after fighting with installations and configurations, setting up the environment, I finally submitted the exercise. The next day, I received my grade. 0 from 100. Complete failure. The professor kindly noted that I could try again. Well, I wasn't surprised because I couldn't understand any of the concepts that were involved in the exercise, so I just blindly did something and submitted. I tried again, submitted a revised version that same day, and received another 0. I was quite possibly the first student in the professor's entire teaching career to fail Hello World twice in a row. If anyone had been taking bets on the least likely to succeed in tech, I would have been the obvious choice. However, today I teach advanced engineering concepts and advise teams on advanced architecture designs. The same person who couldn't get 2 words to display on a screen now designs complex IT architecture systems and teaches millions of engineers in the world how to do it as well. What happened between those 2 zeros and my current career was not some magic or the sudden discovery of a hidden talent. It was a deliberate decision to take my failures and learnings and design a plan accordingly. I used failures almost as road signs or guides that pointed me in the right direction every time. What seemed impossible for me back then had become effortless, not because I discovered a hidden talent, but because I put in the deliberate work when other people might have given up. So fast forward to today, and I'm considered a globally recognized expert engineer. Again, teaching advanced concepts to experienced professionals around the world in English. The same person who failed a basic English test, the same person who failed Hello World twice, the same person who couldn't understand the simplest SQL query. And at each failure point, I could have easily said, oh, I don't have the language talent, or IT is not for me, and taken an easier route, waiting for something that felt effortless or more like my natural talent and ability. Instead, I thought, this is actually important for my future and for my career. I'll just take my failures, analyze, and devise a plan of how to succeed. And I'll just follow that plan. Because I understood that things are supposed to be challenging and difficult, especially when they're worthwhile, when they're important, and when they're new, something that you have never tried before. That's where their value comes from. So instead of waiting for that effortless thing that just felt aligned with my natural talent, I just accepted that this is supposed to be complex and difficult, and I started learning strategically. And this pattern of spectacular failure followed by unlikely success shows the real truth about achievement that most of us completely underestimate. We've all grown up with this belief that extraordinary success comes from extraordinary talent, that certain people are just born different, wired for greatness from day one. Think about it. When we see someone like Elon Musk building multiple billion-dollar companies, we just assume that he must have some unique genius gene the rest of us are missing. Or when we watch Serena Williams dominate tennis for decades, we think she must have some God-given athletic gifts and abilities beyond what any ordinary humans receive. This story we tell ourselves that the highly successful people are fundamentally different from birth. That story creates an invisible wall between the special people and the regular people like us. And this mental barrier does something very dangerous for us. It gives us permission to stop trying. Because after all, if success is primarily about inborn talent rather than developed skill, why bother pushing past our limitations? But what if this entire narrative is completely backward? What if the truth is actually the opposite of what we so deeply believe? Think of this story of Abraham Lincoln, often ranked as America's greatest president. When he was 23 years old, Lincoln had his first try at a local election. He was this tall, skinny newcomer who walked from one farm to the next, door to door, across his county, shaking hands with voters and giving small speeches whenever people would listen to him. On the election day, when they counted the votes, he came in 8th place out of 13 people running. He got only 277 votes, which was nowhere near enough to win one of the 4 open seats. So in this small town where people knew him, people voted for him. But everywhere else, voters just didn't care about this awkward young guy who had no money, no important friends, no connections, and no famous family. This same man who couldn't even make it into the top 5 of a tiny local election later became the president who kept America together during the Civil War, freed the slaves, and is now seen by experts as one of the greatest presidents in the history of US. This huge gap between the 2 points in his life shows amazing power of keeping going even after failing over and over again, even after a huge failure. And not seeing it as a sign from the universe that this is not for me, so I'm just gonna pivot and do something else, which just feels much more effortless. Or even better story, consider Demosthenes, one of ancient Greece's greatest orators. He was born physically frail, with a weak voice and a speech impediment that made him stutter. But he wanted to become an orator, or in today's terms, a public speaker. And clearly he saw his physical limitations, which directly contradicted with his goal. Did he accept these natural limitations? No, he just decided, how can I overcome or work around these limitations? So he went to work to resolve them with persistence. He would fill his mouth with pebbles and practice speaking loudly against the crashing ocean waves to strengthen his voice. He then built an underground study where he would stay for months, half of his head, to prevent himself from going out in public before his skills were developed. And through this relentless practice, this naturally disadvantaged person became one of history's most influential public speakers. Another famous example of Michael Jordan, who was cut out from his high school basketball team because he was too short and not as skilled as the older players. He was so devastated by the rejection that he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. His name was not even good enough to be on a list on a high school gym wall in his small town. And this same rejected kid, thought to be too short and not skilled enough for a high school team, would later win multiple NBA championships and is now known by everyone as the best basketball player ever. That hurt from being rejected pushed him to work harder than anyone else. And Michael Jordan later said, "When I wanted to quit practice, I would remember seeing that list without my name on it." The huge difference between these 2 points again shows how getting rejected can actually make you stronger if you use it to push yourself forward. Instead of being discouraged and saying, "I guess this is not for me. I'm gonna go and find something that I'm naturally good at." And there are hundreds of such stories of almost every big successful person that you admire. So these stories aren't even exceptions, they are actually the rule. We just don't know these background stories of the successful people. We only know the end results. But when you look behind the scenes of every successful person, instead of some extraordinary talent, you will always see failures, like a chain of failures, just like everyone else. But with a secret sauce of persisting and not giving up in spite of those failures. In many cases, even using those failures as fuel and relying on their work ethic rather than on their talent. If you're feeling inspired by these comeback stories, here's how to turn that motivation into real progress. So I want to give you some practical action steps. Every time you fail at something, remember that it's not just normal, but it's necessary. It's supposed to be like that. The most successful people in history did not avoid failures. They didn't try to do things which had the minimum probability of them failing. They collected them. They went after the things where they knew they would fail. So start by changing how you talk to yourself after setbacks or failures. Instead of saying, "I failed because I'm not good enough," try this. "I failed because this is difficult and I'm still learning." Or instead of saying, "I keep getting rejected," say, "I'm collecting no's on my way to finding the right yes." Instead of, "I made a stupid mistake," try, "I found one approach that doesn't work, which brings me closer to one that does." Instead of, "I'm not a creative person," try, "I haven't found my creative process yet." Instead of, "I'm terrible at networking," try, "I'm still developing my social skills in professional settings. I am practicing." Or instead of, "I always quit when things get hard," say, "I am learning to recognize when I need to adjust my approach rather than give up." Instead of, "I'll never understand this subject," say, "I am still in the confusing part of learning this new material, and soon it will start to make sense." Or instead of, "I'm bad at public speaking," say, "I haven't had enough practice speaking in front of groups yet, and I can develop different aspects of public speaking by learning them specifically." Now, I know that the first one in those examples is instinctively what you always think by default. So start practicing daily to catch yourself and reframe it, just like you practice any other skill. It's as simple as that. Just catch yourself every time you use the first language and just reframe it to the second one. Write reminders on post-it notes and stick them on your laptop or bathroom mirror so you don't forget to practice. And after 2 to 3 months of practice, this will become automatic. So by default, your brain will be reframing every experience. This is gonna take time, this is challenging, but it's normal. I am still practicing. And that's where the magic will start to happen in your life. Because even if this sounds too basic or even naive, trust me that it is much more powerful than you can ever imagine, especially when this starts working on autopilot after you practice it daily. So here's a challenge for you. For the next 30 days, catch one failure every day that made you feel bad and immediately reframe it as learning. Write it down to make it more effective and more concrete. I will give you some examples here. Let's say you write, "Failure, I got really nervous during my presentation at work today and forgot some key points. My boss looked disappointed and I felt embarrassed." Reframe, "Today I learned that I need more preparation for presentations, especially practicing the transitions between main points. And this feedback from my boss shows me exactly what to improve for next time. Or another one would be failure. I tried to start a conversation with someone new at the gym, but they gave short answers and walked away. I'm just awkward and bad at making friends. Reframe to today I practiced putting myself out there socially, which takes courage. So I'm proud of myself for being brave. I learned that gym conversations might work better after class rather than during workouts. The next time I will try asking about the routine or something specific instead of making small talk. So catch one such failure every day and reframe it into what you learn and how you'll use that learning for future. And do that for 30 days. And very importantly, write it down. And when you write this down, include how the failure actually made you feel at first, then how your perspective shifted after the reframe. This will actually train your brain to automatically look for the learning opportunities in every setback or failure you face. And once you're done with the challenge, share below your results after 30 days. And remember this, if what you're doing feels easy and effortless all the time, you're probably not aiming or dreaming big enough and are stuck way much into your comfort zone and doing things that don't actually challenge you. The path is supposed to have bumps. You are supposed to fail and fall down sometimes, and that's fine. In fact, you can learn to enjoy and happily welcome those failures and bumps as a signal that you are growing and moving forward towards some desired goals instead of just being stuck in one place. And also remember that nothing worthwhile is effortless from the beginning. You need to put tremendous effort into something until it becomes effortless. And that's the secret of all these naturally gifted people that we admire, like Lincoln, Jordan, Demosthenes, Thomas Edison, because they were not extraordinary from birth. They were ordinary people who developed extraordinary persistence towards their goals. There is no genetic dividing line between gifted individuals and regular folks. We all begin at square one. Some people just refuse to accept their initial limitations as permanent. So next time you find yourself failing spectacularly at something you care about, remember that you might be standing at the starting line of your greatest accomplishment. That's the lesson I learned from failing my way forward. The path to mastery is not a straight line. It's a series of bumps and failures that most people simply are not stubborn enough to push through. Now, I hope this was valuable for you, and if it was, share it with one friend that you care about that you think will benefit from this video. And as always, thanks for watching. Until next one.